A landlord in Las Vegas faces lawsuits and liability for not doing a background investigation on a tenant, yet cities want to force landlords to no longer use background investigations during the screening process. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over the worst case scenario for a landlord when it comes to this whole background investigation issue. Now, I screen all of my tenants, their backgrounds, their credit histories, etc., before I rent to them. Now, a lot of cities are trying to make it so that landlords cannot use that information in making tenant application decisions. And I just think that's an idiotic idea. There's so many problems with that, and it is one of the best tools that we have available to make sure we have the best tenants possible in our properties. So in Las Vegas, they had a landlord who rented to a tenant and apparently didn't do a thorough enough background investigation, and it unfortunately cost someone their life. Now, they are getting sued. The landlord is getting sued by the victim and the victim's family, and it's a horrible situation. And you have to question, okay, are they going to win this lawsuit? Are they going to face horrible losses? And did a person have to lose their life due to basically not doing a background investigation? And this is something that could happen in a lot of places, especially, like I was talking about Seattle before. I believe they've proposed this up in New York, where they don't want landlords to be able to do background investigations because they feel it's discrimination against people who have criminal convictions. And, my personal belief is that, yeah, these people, they do deserve to have housing. However, it should be up to the landlord's discretion whether they want to take the risk on this person or not. And since a lot of landlords do not want to take that risk, that should be okay. Okay, this is one of the consequences of when you have a lot of criminal behavior. Okay, it's going to be harder for you to find housing. It's going to be harder for you to find a job. A lot of people will not want to work with you. A lot of people will not trust you. That is just a consequence of the actions that you took. So yeah, I'm not opposed to landlords being able to reject these people, and they, like I said, they have good reason. They have really good reason. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think. You think that Now, well, let me just ask, as a landlord, would you rent to somebody with a felony conviction? Okay, if you were able to look at their background investigation, you saw they had a felony conviction, I'm sure it's on a case by case basis for a lot of landlords. Depends on what the conviction was, depends on how long ago it was, depends on, if they have had a long period of time where there've been no problems since then, etc. Okay, but I know some landlords would just blanket, nope, no way, no how, I don't want you in here. And I've got no problem with that either. Okay, that sometimes it makes it easier than trying to figure out, should I allow this one or that one? No, no, no. We have more tenants than we need who are completely free of a criminal history. So why should we sit there and nitpick with people with felony convictions? I understand that logic as well. So anyway, let's get into this article. This article is coming from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and it says, editorial, no background checks, but all the liability for landlords. Yeah, and this is a bad story, okay? So this, like I said, this is a worst case scenario for if we didn't have background investigation. So let's get into the article and see what it says. A tragic death at a Las Vegas apartment complex should be a wake-up call for those seeking to further limit landlord background checks on potential tenants. 2 years ago, 63-year-old Gwendolyn Alexander was strangled and beaten to death in her unit at the Terra Santa condominiums on East Sahara Avenue. Police arrested her downstairs neighbor, Jason Valenci, in connection with the crime. He is scheduled to be tried for murder in October. According to court records, Valenci had previously been sentenced to 1 to 4 years behind bars on a felony battery charge stemming from a 2009 incident. So yeah, the subject in here who committed this crime, right? He had a felony conviction from 2009. Now, obviously, it's 2023 right now, so this was 10 plus years prior. But it was a felony conviction. It was for a violent crime. Now, if you talk to a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, well, if the felony conviction was a long time ago, then maybe I'll give the person a chance. Well, you just saw this is a 10 over 10-year old crime, yet this person still was a violent criminal. So I understand why some people decide, hey, I'm not going to rent to somebody no matter how old that conviction is. Okay. Miss Alexander's family has now filed a civil suit arguing the complex's property management firm should have been aware of Valenci's criminal background and failed in its duty to provide a safe environment for residents. Meanwhile, in Carson City, State Senator Dina Neal, a Las Vegas Democrat, has introduced Senate Bill 143, which would prohibit, with certain exceptions, a person seeking to rent or lease a dwelling, or renting or leasing a dwelling, from inquiring into the arrest record, conviction record, or a record of criminal history of an applicant or tenant. So yeah, tenant lost their life, and their family is suing this apartment complex, yet at the same time, there's some stupid politician out there saying, oh, well, we don't need background investigations. Well, you know what? Like they said, it is, they believe it is the responsibility of the apartment complex to provide a safe environment for their tenants, right? And I somewhat agree. I mean, we can't be liable for everything. Keep in mind that, this is a world where so many things happen, right? It is not our responsibility to make sure that our tenants don't commit any crime ever. Otherwise, I would just own a giant prison and put everyone in individual cells so they couldn't hurt each other. But it is our responsibility to make sure that, like safety stuff is done, etc. We'll see what happens with this civil case. I'll look for updates going into the future to see, what exactly happens. But it's very possible that this apartment complex could be found liable. And even if they're not found liable, I've heard many cases where insurance providers will just pay out rather than, this case going any further. The legislation would also prevent evictions based on an individual's criminal history and turn landlords into lawbreakers if they refuse to lease to a prospective tenant on the same basis. What's a landlord to do? In the horrific case of Miss Alexander, the property managers faced civil penalties for renting to a convicted felon who later turned violent. Yet Miss Neal would outlaw background checks on prospective tenants. Miss Neal's legislation is no doubt well-meaning, making it easier for those who made mistakes and served their time to become productive members of society is a worthy goal. And housing plays an obvious role in that transition. But that can be accomplished without putting a straitjacket on landlords, depriving them of a tool that can help identify potentially dangerous applicants and opening them up to liability, as the Valencia case shows. Yeah, I mean, they're so worried about the rehabilitation of these criminals, right? They're so worried about that they don't even seem slightly concerned about the victims. They don't seem concerned about the other people who are surrounding these criminals. The only thing they care about is, oh, we got to take care of these criminals. They're deep down, they're good people. Well, some of them aren't. Okay, some of them aren't, and we have to be extremely cautious when dealing with them. I don't want my business to go under. I don't want people getting, strangled at my property because I was trying to be nice to somebody. Okay, sometimes you have to be mean. Sometimes tough love is the only thing you can do. And, my personal preference is keep my business healthy. I want to put the best tenants possible in there. And I'm not going to put somebody with a felony violent crime conviction into my property, regardless of how old it is. I can tell you for a fact that I have turned people down for that very reason. Like this is the real world. This is the real world where, unfortunately, people are not going to be easy on you when you have this sort of conviction on your record, okay? It's just not going to happen. And I don't blame any landlords for not wanting to put up with this garbage. So let's hope that this sort of worst case scenario doesn't happen to any other landlords.